Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshajarine Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanang pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Welcome to the last lesson of Srila Prabhupada, our Founder-Acarya, and the lesson's called Your Srila Prabhupada, which I confess I took again from, as I did lesson 11, I took the title straight from Satsvarupa Maharaj's seminar, 20-year-old seminar. It was just too good to pass up, and it fits. So, this is the last lesson of the seminar, the last lesson of the section 2 called Prayojana, developing our love for Srila Prabhupada. We move from deepening understanding to deepening our service to his mission, hopefully, our commitment to do that. And that qualifies us to talk about deepening love. So before we look at ways to access and nourish our unique foundational relationship with Srila Prabhupada, let's review some standard aspects of his preeminent position in ISKCON. So just as the last lesson we devoted to dispelling misconceptions, so now we're going to go right back to solid general conceptions, and then we'll go into your Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so there's Srila Prabhupada, preaching, smiling, gesturing, enduringly. And I have a note here. Invite students to share their favorite Prabhupada expressions and gestures. Just think off the top of your head. Think just from first thoughts, what comes into your mind? A favorite gesture or expression? Relaxed.
Yeah, he looks so relaxed. It's like he's kind of up.
Right.
He just seems like at home.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Gopal. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, Mike's.
I guess this is a little bit silly, but I like the way he says teeny. It seems it's just so charming, you know. He always says teeny.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, like for the word zoo, he says Jew. They don't say the J's, the Z's, so they say it like J's.
I like on the morning walks the sound of his cane hitting the floor. Hearing the morning walks. Except for when he's on the beach, but then you hear the ocean.
Little Vapu touches, recorded Vapu. How about gestures? There's one right there. Prabhupada was always so graceful with his hands. I mean, every part of him was full of grace. Yeah, Jnana Mudra, like this. Yes, Vaishnav.
And also Prabhupada's aura.
His aura?
Yeah, I remember I was distributing a book with Prabhupada's picture on it. And when I handed over this black-bodied man, he said, "Oh man, this guy looks very wise." Immediately said, "He looks very wise."
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the wisdom comes out.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Yes, Prabhupada is wonderful in all ways. Okay, so standard understandings. Right? And there. All right, here we go. There's Prabhupada at New Vrindavan on his Vyas Puja Day. Vyas Puja is coming up. There it is, 1972. 40 years ago. Yep. I was right there, right little back, right in the middle of the pack. Gopal, you want to read why don't you read the standard, and we're going to read, first of all, just read a little list of the standard qualifications that Prabhupada has.
Standard understandings of Srila Prabhupada as ISKCON's Founder-Acarya. As Jagadguru, the pure devotee whom the Lord empowered to spread Krishna consciousness worldwide. As a Nityasiddha, Shaktivesa avatar situated on the topmost platform of pure devotional service to Sri Sri Radha and Krishna as the foundational master of for all ISKCON devotees.
Okay. No, that's what we just read. I just want to share with you. See, these are standard understandings of Prabhupada as we know him. Now, some people like to imagine what Prabhupada's doing right now in the spiritual world. But for that, we'll have to take another seminar with Srila Prabhupada in Golok. We'll have to go there and find out. This seminar is specifically about his preeminent role as Founder-Acarya on earth. Some people like to indulge in other ways. I say indulge because for me it's not so relevant. Better we understand him as founder, as our Lord and Master, and then we can qualify ourselves to get his mercy and go home and know him. So, that said, you see how Prabhupada's sitting there? Okay. So there's a little miracle that happened right before that shot was taken. Prabhupada is lecturing to journalists, scholars, and politicians about what Vyasa Puja is all about. Because they see him sitting on this throne, this makeshift red throne, and it's egalitarian 1972 America, and he knows that they're all wondering, why is this guy sitting on this big seat? Who is he, the Grand Wizard or something? So Prabhupada is preaching to them about that. But before he started his lecture, there was an amazing thing that happened, and you can hear this on Yadavar Prabhu's Following Srila Prabhupada DVD series, when the Bhagavad Dharma Discourse section comes up, 1972, and there's eye and ear witness testimony to what's going on. So there was Vyasa Puja Day. It's Saturday, September 2nd, 1972. And so we're all waiting for Srila Prabhupada at this pavilion. There was a makeshift pavilion at the top of Bahulaban Farm. Like when we go to New Vrindavan, you pass the burned out remnants of Bahulaban as you come in, because there was a big fire there. So to host, to accommodate this Bhagavad Dharma discourse, 1,000 guests came, devotees and I say all these people. So on Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja Day, Vishnu Jan Swami was leading one of his classical, legendary kirtans. We were all just in heaven, it was a celestial kirtan, swooning, chanting with him. And then Srila Prabhupada arrives in Hayagriva's yellow Volkswagen, gets out of the yellow Volks, steps right around from the back. There's a little path around the foliage there. Pays his dandavats to Sri Sri Radha Damodar, who were there traveling and visiting, and Jagannath deities. And then he sits on the Vyasasana and with kartals, and he starts following too. The kirtan led by Vishnu Jan Swami. And then he steals the lead. So the kirtan went from Hare Krishna, Hare, Vishnu Jan's, and then all of a sudden you hear Prabhupada go, Hare Krishna, Hare, and we all went absolutely mad. Involuntarily, spontaneously, we got up. We all did this. Just en masse. And we just started running toward Srila Prabhupada and the stage. And we were just weeping and crying, and it was like Radha Damodar and Prabhupada just opened up Golok and flooded the place with Krishna Prem. Just flooded the place. So, we were all just, we were just in in ecstasy, involuntarily. And then finally you hear Srila Prabhupada, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Paribrajaka, and we all just swoon and we drop to the grass, like totally amazed. So those things went on in Prabhupada's presence, because to jumpstart the Hare Krishna movement all over the world, those things had to go on. So we could talk about them for 10,000 years, right? Okay, so that's just a little list. We will have to take Prabhupada's seminar and find out, what he's doing in Golok and join him. He's our group leader. Why not? So, Shesha Prabhu.
Srila, one thing that always struck me that I don't know if it would be included on that list or not, but I always was struck by, because you're saying our Srila Prabhupada, he was with us and everything, but he always spoke so deeply about his relationship with his own spiritual master. And that was obviously something that was a very big part of his being. And it was almost like we were like on the outside of that. That was, and I always kind of felt that, wow, he's got this whole other relationship. And but does it have anything to do with us? Does it belong up there as
It's
part
interesting you asked that, because this is a slide.
Oh.
I mean, we can spin it like that. There's a slide that it kind of addresses that. And since you asked about, as the foremost disciple, we could say, of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who fulfilled the mission, right? Who did what the Thakur wanted all of his disciples to do. He actually did it. So, we'll come to this very soon, actually. Okay, so hold that thought. And, okay, so as ISKCON, I mean, it's so obvious why even say it, but you'd be surprised. Don't put anything past the personality of Kali, or Satan, or Maya, or whatever you want to call it. We just have to reassert this. The whole seminar is about this, that Prabhupada's our Founder-Acharya, but still we have to say it. So, the first time it comes up, Shesha Prabhu, you want to read this?
As ISKCON's Founder-Acharya, Direction of Management, International Society for Krishna Consciousness Incorporated, Founder-Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Prabhupada, 28 July 1970.
So the ... was everything that Prabhupada gave about direction of management, and basically this is when he created the GBC. How it's going to go. As early as 4 years after ISKCON was incorporated, Prabhupada started his succession plan. He was training us how to take it over, how to take it on, how to take it over, how to carry on the mission. Is the AC on? Put it on. Yeah. I mean, not too cold, but we need some. Maybe turn these guys off or something. So that was, to my knowledge, the first time that the title Founder-Acharya appears on an official document. Because before then, the official documents were what? Were the incorporation papers of ISKCON. There weren't many official documents, but now it's taken off, it's going worldwide, and Prabhupada immediately wants to start training us to take it over. Okay, so then 4 years later, to my knowledge, this is the most specific, definitive statement about Prabhupada's preeminent position in ISKCON. 1974, there's an amendment to these documents. Shesh, again, you want? Oh.
It is declared that His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, is the Founder-Acharya of ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He is the supreme authority in all matters of the society. His position cannot be occupied by anyone else, and his name and title must appear on all documents, letterheads, publications, and buildings of the society. Amendments of Official Documents, July 22nd, 1974.
Yeah, so that was drafted by the GBC with Prabhupada's approval. Maybe you know, Shesha, but I believe this came out after there was, again, some symptoms of neglecting his position. Was it because there was nothing on the BBT building, perhaps?
Well, he got upset about that. I don't know if
Yeah.
this, but there was something.
There were some things, because this, it's Kali Yuga, and in course of time, things get lost. So Prabhupada was very insistent, and we can see now the wisdom of this, as time goes on. We have to, rally around him as our Founder-Acharya. He's our unity. And then finally, in 1977, Shesha Prabhu.
Declaration of Will. I, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Founder-Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, 5th June 1977.
Right, and so what followed the ... was his whole will. What he's declaring is the final word. And that happened on the 5th of June, 1977. Okay, so there it is in black and white, or green and white. And even after Prabhupada left, there were challenges to ISKCON's assets, right, from his own family, I believe. Yeah. So, Prabhupada, he was very, the reason he called for this, I think we already did this, I forget which lesson, but Prabhupada, May, June, he said to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, okay, now this isn't working, this Rishikesh cure, so it's time to go to Vrindavan to prepare, for the inevitable or for the worst. So he was still translating. So to peacefully continue translating, he wanted to make sure ISKCON's assets were secure. Because he sensed that the end of his earthly Leela was coming to a close. Okay, so ISKCON's, any doubt about that? If you have any doubts, I think you're in the wrong seminar, or you weren't here. Okay. Anyway, you're just coming in, but there it is. Okay, as Jagadguru, world teacher. Now, Jagadguru is, it's not an uncommon expression. And even in Prabhupada's own time with us, people were declaring themselves Jagadguru of ISKCON. Believe it or not. Again, don't put anything past the personality of Kali, or Satan, or Maya, or the devil, whatever you pick your name. So what is Jagadguru? Raise your hand if you know what Jagadguru literally means. Vaishnava Prabhu. Here.
Guru of the whole world.
Yeah.
The whole Jagat.
World teacher. So, how does Prabhupada fill the bill here? Vaishnava, you want to read?
In just 12 years, Srila Prabhupada circled around the globe 14 times and established the Krishna consciousness movement on every major continent.
And,
Srila Prabhupada founded over 100 Hare Krishna temples, schools, farms and restaurants, all while writing and publishing dozens of translations and commentaries on foundational Vaishnava scriptures. At the same time, Srila Prabhupada initiated thousands of disciples and inspired hundreds of thousands more to understand Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, regardless of caste, color, creed, or cultural background.
Okay, so, when people actually stop and take a look at the record, they're just completely amazed. How could this person have written all these books, tended to all these people, opened up all these things in 12 short years? It's just inhuman. It's not humanly possible. Therefore, we get to the next qualification. Vaishnava? Well, let's see, someone else. How about Madhuje?
Unless one is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one cannot spread the holy names of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra throughout the world. Persons who do so are empowered. Therefore, they are sometimes called Avesha avatars, or empowered incarnations, for they are endowed with the power of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Anta Leela 2:15 purport.
Prabhu, is there anything that strikes you about this purport? About this excerpt from this purport? Just look at that. Prabhupada is giving us what an Avesh or Shakti-Avesh avatar is. There's something, maybe it's so obvious you're missing it. Okay, pass the mic to Bharahari Prabhu.
He's describing himself.
Yes, but he's not saying it's him. And that's classic Prabhupada. It's all about Krishna. It's all about Lord Chaitanya. He's the transparent via medium. He's not getting in the way. He's delivering the message as it is. And this is classic Prabhupada. That's why to this day, if people know about Hare Krishna, if they know, they probably don't know about Srila Prabhupada. There's less likely they'll know about Srila Prabhupada. Vaishnava.
Prabhu, I have a question in this regard. I read a quote in a paraphrase where I'll tell when Radhanath Maharaj is saying that when you act more than your limitations, I don't
Act beyond your qualification.
Beyond your qualification,
right.
And your desire is more than your qualification, and when you act, then then this is called empowerment. Is it same as that? Or
No, that's another thing. In other words, when you, out of faith, do something that you think, like Prabhupada, I can't do this. Why have you brought me here? Please make me dance. That's called faith. And then, of course, he spent a lifetime in preparation. When a reporter said, well, you were ordered to do this in 1922, why did you wait till now? And Prabhupada gave different answers, but one answer was, well, I have to prepare myself. So one who is preparing himself, he's qualified to let Krishna work through him. That's another thing. But if we're claiming some qualification, beyond what we really have, claiming some qualification, then that's called imitation. That's called sahaja or pretender or whatever. So it's not the same as being qualified by dint of one's absolute surrender, and then because of absolute surrender, getting absolute empowerment and unique realizations of how to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. That's what it says. Unless one is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one cannot spread the holy names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra throughout the world. So Prabhupada, he was surrendered to the order, not sentimentally or blindly, but he prepared himself for it, as much as he could. And then yoga kshemam bahamyam, Krishna says, I carry what you lack. So, do you understand the distinction there? Yes, Tulsi Rani, give her the mic, please.
Can you clarify for me, because I always thought like a Shakti Vaishnavatar, maybe this is misunderstanding. I think I heard a long time ago that Shakti Vaishnavatar is an incarnation, someone that descended from the spiritual world. They're not affected by the modes of material nature. But then, according to this definition, it could say that someone that's like empowered by Lord Chaitanya is a Shakti Vaishnavatar. So we see so many of Prabhupada's disciples are so empowered. So are they also to be considered Shakti Vaishnavatas?
I don't know if I can speak so definitively about technical stuff like Avesh and like that, but your question reminds me of Prabhupada's discussion of Siddha. There's Nitya Siddha and Sadhan Siddha. Nitya Siddha means somebody who never was affected, who, as you say, descended from the spiritual world. Like in Buddhism, they have this concept of bodhisattva. Somebody out of compassion comes down and helps the suffering souls. And then there's sadhan siddha, somebody who becomes restored, perfected by practice. That's the opportunity we're being afforded. But as Prabhupada makes the point on his explanation, once you're siddha. Doesn't matter if you came or you become. Once you've been restored, you're restored. So, or even if you're not completely siddha, we saw in one slide that you can act as guru, as spiritual master, even if you're not liberated, if you're strictly following the liberated. Right? And that's what Prabhupada said, both in CC and in the letter. So either way, that's what we're being invited to do. Become perfect like thy Father in heaven, as Lord Jesus said. Be perfect like thy Father in heaven. Go and sin no more. Don't charge it to me. You don't sit and confess. Sit and confess. Sit and confess. So, beyond that, I'd have to look at maybe CC some more and work out there's all kinds of, the word incarnation is a little problematic for us, because we say Lord Chaitanya is the most munificent incarnation, but literally what does incarnation mean? I mean by the Latin. In the flesh. So it's not like that for someone like Krishna or Lord Chaitanya. Yes, Shesha, here we go.
Is it that, at least it can be considered that the difference between Prabhupada being empowered to speak in much over the world and others who may follow him, they're sort of like following in the wake.
Yeah.
There was nothing. Prabhupada created something.
Right.
And people can follow in that and develop that.
Right.
But there was nothing. And he created something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And so that's, I don't know if you've seen that otherwise.
Right, and that's getting back to the difference between a Founder-Acharya and a regular guru, right? The Founder-Acharya is what? He's called, remember the term? Udarak. He's the savior, he's the deliverer. And he has the key capacity to deliver everybody, actually. And he does, but how? Through his representatives, the Upakarak, who are benefactor gurus, whose job is, whose function is to bring everybody to the absolute shelter of his lotus feet. That's from remember that lesson? That was lesson 3, the Sri Sampradaya. And it was also echoed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Harinama Chintamani. No one replaces him. His teachings are supreme. His power is extraordinary. The only time that we've heard in Prabhupada's preaching Leela of him saying he came from the spiritual world. Do you remember the story I told about Bhavanand? Nobody ever tells this except Bhavanand, and the other person in the room has passed on, Upendra, so we can't ask him. But Bhavanand tells the story. He swears it happened. That he and Upendra were sitting alone with Prabhupada, with all these Vaikuntha breezes blowing through Prabhupada's rooms, and relaxing, like you say, And then out of the blue, Bhavanand says, Prabhupada said, so, Krishna asked me to come here, but I did not want to come to this nasty place. And then Krishna said, no, don't worry. You just go down and write those books. I will make all arrangements. I mean, we've never heard an anecdote like that, because that's not how Prabhupada spoke. He spoke to us as our Founder-Acharya and as a humble servant of Srila Saraswati Thakur. But that's one kind of, glimpse or evidence. Take it for what it's worth, one hearsay. But we're here to, again, relate to Srila Prabhupada as our Founder-Acharya. And by what he did, like he was asked, when did you become God realized? And at least on one occasion he said, when I was 5. And then he also said, there was never a time when I forgot Krishna. So that's a symptom of a Nitya Siddha. Someone who's never conditioned by the material energy. Also, you get a hint in Gita 6:42. Purport. Atava, what is it? Bahunaitena, kingyatena tavarjana. No, I forget. Anyways, or if unsuccessful after many, many births of yoga practice, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are verily great in wisdom. Or surely great in wisdom. Verily, such a birth is rare in this world. And then in the purport, Prabhupada starts talking about his own spiritual master. And then he said, and fortunately, we also had the opportunity to take birth in the family of pure devotees. He said his father's a pure devotee, Gaur Mohan Dey. And later we met by the order of the transcendental system. So he's kind of giving us a hint there. Okay, let's just keep moving. So he's Nityasiddha Shaktivesh Avatar, although he didn't say, he left it to you. Just like my colleague at the Mayapur Institute, Shyamulasaki, said. So I read Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is in 1987 in India. I was thrilled, and I just wanted to meet this person and become his disciple. And then I was mortified to find out that he had left this world. So, but she'd already felt she'd met him, in Vani. And she had, in the most powerful way, in the most personal way, in his ecstasies, in his ecstatic purports. Okay, and we all have that opportunity. As the foundational spiritual master for all ISKCON devotees, we've put one component of the 1994 GBC Resolution to this effect on the board. Now we're going to see all the components. So, before Shesha joined the GBC, you weren't part of this, you said. You joined in 95? Or you joined or you were drafted? Or you were drafted. Okay, that's good. You didn't barge in. No. You don't do that. That's good. Shesha Prabhu, can you read this component? No, I thought you don't want to read it. Come on, it's a GBC. All right.
In 1994, GBC Resolution number 35, Founder-Acharya's statement, A. Srila Prabhupada is the foundational Shiksha Guru for all ISKCON devotees.
Whoop. Yes.
B. Srila Prabhupada's instructions are the essential teachings for every ISKCON devotee. C. Srila Prabhupada's books are the embodiment of his teachings and should be accepted as the standard by all future generations of ISKCON. D. Srila Prabhupada should be worshipped daily by every ISKCON member. E. Every spiritual master is responsible to guide his disciples to follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions.
Okay. Now this was drafted, this was passed, this resolution in March 1994. I may have told this, but just a few months later, again in Mayapur, the resolution was passed, but who knew about it? Who knew? Because on Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja Day, our godbrother Dhruva Maharaj was chanting japa in the courtyard. I think I told this, between the Garuda Stamba and the Maha counter. And there, chomping on some pizza, is a devotee. So Dhruva says, "Oh, Prabhu, maybe you didn't know, today is Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja Day." And defiantly, the person said, the young brahmachari said, "You say that because he's your spiritual master. He's not my spiritual master." Whoa. Really? Well, here we are 18 years later, and we're just getting around to promoting it, in an intense way, not just getting around. I mean, more and more this is the culture in ISKCON. But we want to really get it out there that this is the fact, this is the case, and this is the way we're going to go on as a united movement. Let's see if there's any. Okay. Any questions or comments about that resolution or its implications? Okay. Remind students that all relationships we have in ISKCON, including guru-disciple relationships, are relative to the foundational core relationship we have with our Founder-Acarya. And this relationship and this identity unites us all as, what are we all? Prabhupada Nugas. It's like they have Madhvas and Ramanujis. So, right. Yes, Prabhu.
I've heard, what is this about the Rupanugas? I've heard people say we're all Rupanugas.
Yes, Prabhupada says that in Nectar Devotion. That's true. We're all Krishna Nugas too, and Chaitanya Nugas. But we know all that through our Founder-Acharya. That's how we have access to all that. That's the way it works. And now we're coming up to something that's going to hit on Shesha's question a little bit. So before we get into that too much, because Prabhupada talks about this. Okay, so, all right. So now we get into your Srila Prabhupada. So there's a collage, and I've titled it Srila Prabhupada as Krishna's Transcendental Renaissance Man. What's a Renaissance man? Does anybody know? Raise your hand. Our aesthete, right here. Resident aesthete.
A Renaissance man is someone who's knowledgeable and skilled in many varieties of fields.
Can you give us an example of a Renaissance man?
Well, aside from Prabhupada?
Yeah, what do they say in secular world?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to be that nowadays because there's
Da
so much
Vinci.
specialization. Well, yeah, Da Vinci, of course, because he was in painting, inventions, sculpting.
His intelligence was so many sides to it. So that's why I put this up there, because Prabhupada was like a man for all seasons, reasons, so many skills. There's you connect with Prabhupada as the Varnashram community pioneer there in the upper left, as the savior of everyone, all generations. There he is on Hippie Hill in 67. Sankirtan, beating the drum. And there he is. Now, who knows who's with Srila Prabhupada in the upper right? Raise your hand. Don't call her out. Raise your hand. Vaishnav. Malati Mataji. And it's such a touching picture. That's obviously an early ISKCON picture because it's a very early ISKCON sari, I think. Anyway, she's looking. It looks better close up. She's looking at him with a kind of affectionate wonder. and there they are probably on the beach in the West Coast. And and even there, I think Malati is, as we speak, she's chairing a committee, she's spearheading an effort. I think there's a book in production that the Matajis are compiling about Prabhupada's relationship with his lady followers, and how he was so inspirational and encouraging and affectionate to them. So that's in the works, and Malati is certainly qualified to do that, being a veteran lady disciple. There's Prabhupada in the lower left, the Krishna House originator, supreme cook. I believe it's New Talavan. Yeah, that's what I always remember, New Talavan. So there he is on the stove. And people connect with Prabhupada as the book person, distributing books and dictating the books. That's how kind of I connect with him especially. My service has always taken me around the books, distributing them, teaching based on them, writing articles based on them, like that. So, and then there's the mantra upasaka. What's Prabhupada doing there? Chaitanya, let Chaitanya say it. Do you know? Know what Leela that is? Anybody near the mic that can tell? Where is Prabhupada there? Raise your hand. Chaitanya! Hey, let's wait. No, but good guess. You're in the right side of the pond. London. Yes, he's installing Radha Gokulananda, 1973, Janmashtami. You've seen the movies. It's ecstatic. And there's Prabhupada. Krishna's mantra upasaka, the great worshipper of the holy name, who spread the holy name all over the world. There he is, surrounded especially by his, leading men, disciples there, on the parquet floor at Radha Gokulananda's lotus feet. It's a little different now when you go there, but it's very sweet. Suffice it to say, Prabhupada, we can connect with Prabhupada in so many moods, in so many services. So that's what we're going to try to do now. So looking at Srila Prabhupada's photo collage, giving you a peek at my notes, I just made these today, so remind the students that we all connect with Srila Prabhupada in different authentic ways. And that Srila Prabhupada's full mercy emerges in the sincere and serious Sangha of all generations of Prabhupada's dedicated followers in different ways. So what are some of the ways? Let's talk. How do you connect, Chaitanya, with Srila Prabhupada? What's your favorite? See, we're revisiting that first lesson when we talked about describe your relationship with Prabhupada. Now we're at the end of the seminar, we're reconnecting with that.
I would say my biggest connection is probably when I'm speaking to people, because I find myself saying things that it's not my opinion or my thought, but it's actually reiterating what I've heard Srila Prabhupada say on his tapes or seen in his videos.
Right, because your absorption in his written word, spoken word, you're representing. To represent means to represent just appropriate to the time, the place, the person. So that's the job. That's the job of the follower, to represent creatively, with all initiative, but not changing the spirit, the intent, the siddhanta of the message. Thank you. Anyone else? How do you connect best with Srila Prabhupada? Gopal. There's the mic right there.
With his books, definitely.
With his books. How so? What do you do with his books?
Well, I read them daily, and I advise people read them daily, because what I say is you forget immediately. If you have to read them every day to remember why you're doing this, even if it's just a verse or a page,
Does Gopal just say that? No, I see him every day. He's like, right? He does. It's like a regular daily function.
Yeah, I read every day.
That's a good example, because to really read Prabhupada's books, you have to make it part of your sadhana. You have to make it as sacred as your japa time, to really do it every day, or else it doesn't happen. Because the world is too much with us forever and anon, as what Longfellow wrote. The world is too much with us, so we have to push back the world, and especially that early morning time, that's the time. Just even if it's 10 minutes, some 10 quality minutes, That can make your whole day. So, Tulsi Rani, how do you best connect with Srila Prabhupada? Hey, that's all right. You've been drafted. You must speak now.
I would say I was thinking both of the same things that they just Chaitanya and Gopal said. I would say by reading Prabhupada's books, I connect with Prabhupada, and it's so important every day. And then by sharing Prabhupada's books, by taking that knowledge and speaking it to others, and then sometimes when you're talking to someone, something sounds really good, and I'm like, where did I get that from? I was like, I'll be like, wow, I'm really not that advanced, I'm really not that knowledgeable, but I can feel Srila Prabhupada and my spiritual master and all the other senior devotees that have influenced me, speaking through me with their knowledge, their experience, and their intelligence. And I'm like, and it's all coming from Prabhupada. And I'm like, whoa. And so I feel really connected with Prabhupada in that instance when I'm preaching to people. And I'm not preaching from my false ego, and I'm preaching from Prabhupada. And I feel so connected with Prabhupada.
Idang paramang guhyam mad bhakte svabidas. Nachitasman manushe. There's no person in this world more dear to me than that person who was sharing my glories and helping them reconnect with me. So I just remembered, as I'm speaking to you about this, that because we're all in Krishna house, we are going to get similar answers, because that's what's going on here. It's a training ground and it's a preaching ground. But we have a guest. Shesha Prabhu is, who is, like all of us, has been around the block 108 times in Prabhupada's movement, doing so many things all over the world, part of the illustrious library party and on, and serving faithfully as a GBC member. But I am personally curious, Shesha. Would you like to share to us how you personally connect with Prabhupada the most favorite way? Okay?
I feel like I've been brainwashed. Because
brain giving.
Brain giving, yes.
Brain giving.
Because I feel that there is something that's so deeply affected me, that how I think about everything and how I relate to everything is in terms of, well, Prabhupada said this, Prabhupada did that, and so everything's sort of filtered through that brainwashing, and therefore that's how I always feel connected to Prabhupada, because anything that comes up is just the automatic reflex is, well, what did Prabhupada say about that? Well, in his book here he said this, and it's almost like, and of course this all sounds so proud and everything. I don't mean to say
that's
like
good.
that, but
we know, we'll take it in the right way.
But it's almost like living the instruction. It's that's the fabric that we're made from, or cut from.
So, somebody who just walked in this room might think that is brainwashing. What's the difference between what they say is brainwashing, quack like a duck, quack quack, and washed brain and cleansed brains? What's the difference? Jai Nitai Prabhu.
There's no independent reasoning.
There's no. Well, is that good?
Well, in the sense that when we're taking instructions or listening to what Srila Prabhupada said, we're seeing how demonstratively, practically, it's applicable to life and all the different things. Whereas somebody who's brainwashed, they would mindlessly walk into a tree and not even think, well, wait a minute, how is what I'm being told and what I'm doing, how's it all working together? So Prabhupada has encouraged us to think, but he's spiritualized that thinking.
It's kind of what I had mentioned in classes here over the last few weeks about worldview. The whole outlook on the world has changed, and therefore it's not brainwashing, because it's not just blind. You have an analytical framework in which to view the world, and that's not brainwashing.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah. In Nectar Devotion, Prabhupada says that our propensity to love expands. It naturally expands from the body to the family, the community, the more open we are. But then with Krishna consciousness, it expands all the way to our source. So when the brain is really cleansed, then our consciousness expands to Krishna, who's the source of everything. It's just the opposite of shrinking consciousness, where we just see, just like an analogy from the military. That's when they do basic training, right? They want to strip you of your identity. At least in the Marines, they do that, right? So they want to just get rid of your old ego and then fill you up with, the new ego. I'm a Marine, like that. So that's artificial, because originally we come from God. So when we're recovering our godly identity, that's not, brainwashing in the bad sense. That's actually expanding our whole identity to who we really are. Sarvo Padi Manir Muktam. We're getting rid of all these artificially acquired identities. Okay. So, all right. So that was a kind of, the way I actually do this is a kind of, I talk about Varna connections with Prabhupada, how we connect with Prabhupada's mission through so many different Varnas. And if we're really developing that, then we can appreciate others' offerings. And if we're not secure in that, we tend to be insecure and criticize, because you can only appreciate when you're secure in your own position. Now there's another aspect of connecting with Prabhupada. It's through ashram. Oop. Okay. So, yeah. Where is this? All right. So much for my fancy notes. Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay, ashram connection. So by ashram connection, I mean what Prabhupada gave us as Krishna meditation every day is, just think about this. Do you remember those 5 most important activities Srila Rupa Goswami says out of the 64 principles? What are the 5 again? Raise your hand if you know the 5.
Worshipping the deity in the temple, chanting the holy names, associating with devotees,
being in a
holy place like Sri Mathura Dham, Sri Vrindavan, Mayapur Dham,
right. And hearing
and hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Right.
But isn't there one place where it's like written in different places, and one place it's switched out one of them for worshipping Tulsi Devi?
No, that's another list.
That's a different list.
That's a different list. Okay. But there is a switch out, and chanting Hare Krishna is also switched to Sankirtan, which can be spun in different ways. So in what we call the morning program, all those 5 activities are contained. So Prabhupada has given us the quintessential of essentials. Every day he gives us the best spiritual nourishment just by following his, we could say Prabhupada's sadhana bhakti, that he didn't make up, but he perfectly prescribed it for ISKCON. He took those activities and he took the Hari Bhakti Vilas and he figured out just the right sequence of events. We sing Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Gurvastakam, and then Tulsi Puja, and then Japa, and then greeting the deities, and then he instituted his own. There's a big hint too. That's another ashram thing. We worship him, every day as our foundational spiritual master. All generations. Okay, so those are ashram connections. Any questions or comments about that? Okay. So those are connections with Prabhupada. But now we're going to get into Shesha's question. All right. So please make your connection as time goes on. Yes, Chaitanya. More and more, deepen your connection through Varna and Ashram.
You were saying ashram, like that deepens our connection with Krishna or with Srila Prabhupada. And I was wondering, you have the different ashrams, so like, if, say like, we're not
I'm taking ashram in a general sense, not the 4 orders, but the ashram meaning the place where spiritual life is cultivated. That's what I'm, yeah, that's an aspect of it, the 4 stages of life too. But
So no matter where we're situated, if we're doing the morning program, the sadhana bhakti, then we can be connected with Srila Prabhupada.
yeah, according to our situation.
But if we're situated, like say for instance, not everybody can be here at the Krishna house or in a temple, they have their own home. But is it true that like unless they are actually following the morning program wherever it is that they are living, that is going to connect in the Srila Prabhupada, and if they aren't, that'll be also detrimental?
Yeah, it's like every day we have to get up, we have to bathe, we have to eat, we have to dress, we have to, so there's going to be some lacking. There's going to be we're going to feel it if we're not starting our day on a spiritual note. That said, there's devotees all over the world doing all different kinds of things in all different situations, so it's really going to vary. And that's why we have this, for example, this Hawaii Skype Sangha. The virtual Sanghas are really popular amongst people who are nowhere near temples. They're out there in Timbuktu, which is actually having its political problems as we speak. It's going to really vary, the details of how people can do it. But the general principle is do whatever you can to get these components in there, just like we have, basic nutrients that we need every day. So these are the nutrients, Rupa and Prabhupada and, the Acharyas recommend. So it's not a black and white thing, but certainly we need to make our best effort to get those nutrients in there. And when we don't do that, we feel it immediately. What to speak if we make a lifestyle out of neglecting basic nutrients? It's skating thin, Okay, so let's go on to, but no jumping, please. See, the previous slide was connect with your Srila Prabhupada. But no jumping, please. What do we mean by that? Well, there's 2 kinds of jumping. There's one most of us have heard of, and there's another one I kind of devised to make another point. Okay. No jumping over. So, see, I'm tired, so I'm drawing a blank on your wife's name. Dvijamani Mataji, can you read that? No jumping over. Let me set up this quote for you. Okay, here's the setup. When devotees first started going to India, they were like really fascinated, infatuated with all kinds of things that they were seeing and hearing, and so one of the things that really caught their eye was all these books, especially Gaudiya Math books and this Acharya. And so when the devotees asked Prabhupada if they could read, some books by Siddhanta Saraswati, here's the line. Go ahead.
No jumping over. You cannot imagine what my spiritual master said, or even if you read some books, you cannot understand unless you understand it from me. This is called Parampara system. You cannot jump over to the superior guru, neglecting the next Acharya, immediate next Acharya. Srimad Bhagavatam Lecture 1.15.30 LA 8 December 1973.
Now this quote, no jumping over, was egregiously applied, really misapplied in our dark ages, our zonal Acharya era, when, people were imitating Prabhupada's position, were saying out of immaturity that you can't come to Prabhupada except through me. It just a complete imitation of the Founder-Acharya. So we all have, again, direct, primary, foundational access to Srila Prabhupada through his Vani, through his books and his spoken word. And we need the help of senior Vaishnavas to properly understand what we're hearing. But again, the absurd conclusion of saying that, okay, Prabhupada's here, he's the upline, and now I'm the latest, is that as we get further away from Prabhupada in time, that Prabhupada is lost. That's the absurd conclusion of saying that you can't, access Prabhupada except through me. No, that's wrong. Prabhupada is the foundational. You got it? Fundamental, core, main, primary spiritual master of everybody in ISKCON. And it's our job to give each other Srila Prabhupada, especially people who are acting as Shiksha and Diksha gurus. So that's very important. That's the whole, practically one of the main points of the whole seminar. So no jumping over means we don't jump over our Founder-Acarya to get to another Founder-Acharya. Remember what Prabhupada had to do. He had to make a clean break from the Gaudiya Math, not from the Parampara, but he had to start a whole new branch out of the ashes, you could say, out of the debacle of the Gaudiya Math. He had to start a whole new branch because they fundamentally disobeyed their Founder-Acharya. So, no jumping over means we can't access any, the previous great acharyas except through our Founder-Acharya. And here's another jumping we don't do. And no jumping into. Aha. What does this mean? Tulsi Rani, you have the mic. Why don't you read that?
And no jumping into. Nobody should accept blindly any guru, and nobody should blindly accept any disciple. They must test one another, at least for 1 year. This is the instruction by Sanatana Goswami in his Hari Bhakti Vilas.
Now, we had this slide before, but I just repeated it because it fits so well. And again, we cannot remind enough that there's no rush to judgment about how to connect with Srila Prabhupada formally. If you're going to formalize a relationship with someone through Shiksha or Diksha, you really make a commitment to people. So there really has to be a thoughtfulness. A devotee is thoughtful. A devotee is as thoughtful. What's the quote? Do you remember the quote? A devotee is as thoughtful as a non-devotee is speculative. The mind's always going, like Mahatma says. But the devotee thinks in terms of, as Shesha Prabhu was saying, Guru Sadhu Shastra. He's seeing everything through Krishna's eyes, Guru's eyes. He's not making it up. He checks his mind against what he's hearing. We see through our ears. And that's why we have to be hearing Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, especially as it's presented through our Founder-Acharya. So we don't jump into relationships without being thoroughly grounded. And we never jump into a relationship. It's like there's even one tape where Prabhupada said it's like a marriage. He's comparing it to a marriage. This is an old 1966 Bowery tape, believe it or not. It's like a marriage. So you know how, careful you got to be. Who am I to talk, right? But how careful you got to be when you enter into a relationship. So when you're talking about, a spiritual relationship, whoa, it's serious stuff. So we really have to be grounded in our Founder-Acharya to know how we're going to connect with Srila Prabhupada and his mission. Can I really accept this person? Am I going to be able to engage this person in Prabhupada's mission? Do we have spiritual chemistry, so to speak? And the disciples, can I really surrender to Srila Prabhupada's mission through this person? Can I really, So there has to be a testing, a mutual examination. It's Prabhupada, 11 years for him, of course, different circumstances. But there's no rush to judgment. People should be very thoughtful. And because people aren't being very thoughtful more and more, as I mentioned, one initiating spiritual master said, boy, this is really important, that you stress this because it's not happening the way we had philosophical conviction. People are too sentimental these days. Okay, so no jumping over. Connect with Prabhupada, but don't jump over him don't start reading all kinds of books, without knowing him. Have you read, people would say, have you read my books, Prabhupada would say? Do you know my books? And don't jump into, be circumspect. Look around, circumspect, look around. Keep your ear to the ground of Prabhupada's Vani. Yes, Tulsi Rani. That's great. That means you're intelligent. Just be submissive. American woman. Go ahead.
From the previous slide, I just remember once talking with Lakshmani Prabhu and she was making it. I really liked her example of how the reason why we shouldn't be reading our previous Acharya's books and we should only be reading Prabhupada's books is because he came with the thought in mind that I'm distributing this knowledge to people that have no idea. These people are coming from impious backgrounds, whereas the previous Acharyas were mostly preaching to people from pious backgrounds with, that had some like Indian Vedic culture in them. And Prabhupada was giving it to a whole different group of people and a whole variety of people. And so I thought that was a really nice explanation of why we should just stick to reading Prabhupada's books and not read the other previous Acharyas. But my question is, why is it that so many senior devotees, I know there's even like a separate folio for like super senior devotees that they can study like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentations on Srimad Bhagavatam and so many other like Acharyas that like, is there, I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about our senior devotees, but why is it that they're allowed to? Yeah.
It's not so much allowed to. In other words, for example, even in Prabhupada's, I think it's in the first purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, the serious student would do well to go through the commentaries of the Goswamis. Look it up in folio. Yeah, but here's the thing. To be qualified to do that, you really have to be steeped. Seeing everything through Prabhupada's eyes. Not that by reading those other you begin to see Prabhupada through their eyes. No. Not at all. And that's a good, I like Lakshmani's point because we don't have any, background in this stuff. So if somebody's going to come out of left field quoting the Mona Samhita about something, is that relevant to this day and age? Prabhupada also quoted Mona Samhita, but appropriately. So let me tell you my experience at Mayapur Institute. So I know some senior devotees who are very grounded in Prabhupada's teachings, who do have commentaries of other acharyas, but the way they use them is to enhance our appreciation of Prabhupada's purports. That's the way they use them. Not to screw out some, far-out meaning so people will swoon over their far-out esoteric classes. I mean, if they're really clean. I was talking with Kadamba Khan Swami about this. He said, I was asking him about, because he gave me a whole file of commentaries, and then he said, it's unlimited. There's commentaries, and there's commentaries and the commentaries, and there's commentaries and the commentaries. You can go like 4 or 5 levels deep with this stuff. So where does it end? That's why, when you get Prabhupada's purports, you can see how he brilliantly took the commentaries and he distilled them and he fused them with his own unique, unprecedented realizations of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world, and he applied the commentaries just appropriately, for the modern age. So it's a razor's edge, and it has to be applied appropriately. Prabhupada did, say that in his books, but it's not for beginners, and the more you do get brainwashed, how to use it appropriately. And it's never to somehow contradict. A great example of this is Gopi Pranadana Prabhu. Okay? He was before he passed away, he was running this Bhagavad Vidyapitam, this Sanskrit school. And he was so well read in Gaudiya literature. But one of Gopi's brilliant qualities is that he was so, faithful to Prabhupada. He would not, he would not stray outside of Prabhupada's vision in his Siddhanta in the name of being well-read and well-rounded or whatever. He was very faithful like that. He was fully realizing that Prabhupada was supremely blessed and gifted and empowered, Shakti Avesh, to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So he wanted to stay in that line, in that parampara, that branch of the Chaitanya tree. That's the best example I know. I still don't, I'm still a little miffed at Krishna. What was the haiku I wrote after Gopi passed? Gopi sage, our friend. I forget the second line. Gopi sage, our friend. Vital guru, who stole you? Sham, serpent's embrace. Now this has a little esoteric meaning. I'll repeat it again. Gopi sage, our friend. Vital guru, who stole you? Sham, serpent's embrace. Just before Gopi passed, Gopi Pranadana passed, the night before he saw a black snake. So his wife said, I think that was Krishna. I think that was Krishna, giving him a sign. Because the next morning he was found, It's that black snake, that Sham. He took our Gopi. Oh. Anyway, what to do? But he's the best example I know of somebody who was, when he was qualified, studied those commentaries. He knew how to use them. He knew how to teach from them. And he was doing that in his school. And he was so faithful to Prabhupada. He was brilliant. He had a website. You know this website? You could ask him any question. Q&A at Palmho.net. You ever do this? Here.
Brajabasi. Remember the brahmachari who was here? Yeah, Brajabasi Das, black-bodied devotee from South Africa who was teaching here for about a month and a half, and he said that he would sometimes get into rather heated arguments with Gopi Pranadana over the internet. And he said that he was always very humble and very calm and very
honest.
Honest, yeah.
Very honest. A lot of his answers to these, you could ask him anything, about the philosophy or about Gaudiya literature, and a lot of the times he would say, I don't know. Or he would give an opinion that was consistent with Prabhupada's life teachings, mood, and mission. But he was never, teaching beyond the level of his realization. Okay, I could go on and on about Gopi, but no jumping into. Is that clear? No jumping over, no jumping into, while we're connecting with Srila Prabhupada. And okay, now this is the grand finale. And it's not even published. Oh, there's the last one. Who has the mic? Want to read? Just read the last few words. This is another no jumping.
Establishing a relationship with a spiritual master in the line of Srila Prabhupada, first of all, means establishing a relationship with him as a Founder-Acarya.
So this is in Lokanath Maharaj's introduction to Prabhupada's Centennial Vyasa Puja book. I don't know how many people read that introduction, but it was very, it was very progressive in its time. Okay, so that's the point. Connect with Srila Prabhupada, and then we'll know how to connect with this whole mission. All right, now, it's going to be published in September. It's going to be circulated amongst our committee members. But finally, the paper that Ravindra Sarup Prabhu has been working on for many years, on and off, is going to be published, and it's wonderful, it's brilliant, and it's not going to be signed with his name, because we want it to be from the whole committee, because people will naturally find, it's just one person's opinion, although when you read it, it's so grounded in Guru Sadhu Shastra, but we're just trying to diffuse, preempt criticism. So let's take a turn reading the benefits. You can see the individual and the collective benefits when you read these benefits. Here's the key word here is deeply, not just by the lip and yeh rah rah Prabhupada, but deeply understanding his position as our foundational spiritual master, as our Founder-Acarya. So why don't we pass the mic? Go ahead, Gopal.
Generation after generation, will be able to receive the special mercy offered by Srila Prabhupada.
Next, Clayton. Oh, okay.
Srila Prabhupada's active presence will help to secure the unity of ISKCON, strengthening both the GBC and Guru-disciple bonds.
Yes. Yes, we need both. And the key to having strong Guru-disciple relationships and strong oversight, GBC, is Prabhupada really being the forefront, the life, teachings, the mood, the mission. And,
by taking full shelter of Srila Prabhupada as Siksha Guru in his Vani manifestation, all teachers in ISKCON on various levels of advancement will be able authentically to convey Srila Prabhupada's real teachings, thus giving proper guidance, shelter and protection to all.
Yeah, very important. That's what we've been talking about. The tendency is to go off in so many directions, but full shelter of Prabhupada. Okay? Next.
Our teachings will remain consistent over space and time.
And?
Prabhupada's realized knowledge, endowing him with the specific potency to spread Krishna consciousness, will be not only preserved but also developed.
Yeah. Prabhupada had a unique, again, CC, Madhya Lila, 23:105. Read that verse and purport. What it takes to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Read that. And we have to do that. I've given you the framework, Prabhupada said. Now you have to fill everything else in. It's gone to every continent, but not every town and village. That's a lot of places. Okay, go ahead.
His books will remain central for us, for they contain insights and directions that await future development to be realized.
For example, Varnashram. We're just getting our toes wet. It's all there. Believe me, we did the research. It's all there. It just has to be applied. Okay.
His eyes will always remain the lens through which all future generations see Prabhupada's predecessor acharyas.
Yeah, there it is again. The lens. The measure of all people, Shastra, everything we see here. Okay. And now, that's the last slide. But what we do for this last slide, I make the point. What should we do? Sing the national anthem? Okay. Okay. So what I do for this last slide, this celebratory, scream it with an exclamation point slide. All glories to our beloved Founder-Acarya, Srila Prabhupada, and all glories to every Prabhupada follower's foundational relationship with him. We make the point that we find our intimacy with Founder-Acarya, Srila Prabhupada, by serving him in separation. This is true for everyone. And then the way I introduce this is as I tell the story of how Jamuna, our late great Jamuna Devi, Govindamati Purusham Tamahang Bhajami, she realized this early on, probably, maybe one of the first, because Jamuna Devi, if you know her history, joined Srila Prabhupada's mission in 1967 as one of the early followers of Swamiji. But then she also was brought by Srila Prabhupada as one of the first disciples to go to India. One of the dancing white elephants on the World Sankirtan Party. Right? So when she went with Srila Prabhupada, and especially on one pandal, it was in Delhi in 1971. Now she was used, all the way back to the Haight-Ashbury days, to sitting right up front, up close and personal, right in front of His Divine Grace's lotus feet. That's just, and she couldn't imagine sitting anywhere else, because her life and soul was hearing, hanging on every word Prabhupada said. So, there's one big pandal, and it's India now, and it's 1971, and the movement's going global, and they're not in the Haight-Ashbury, they're in New Delhi. So there's Jamuna Devi, front and center, waiting for Prabhupada to come out at this morning pandal program. Thousands of people are coming. A sannyasi catches their ear and says, Jamuna, do you see where the ladies are sitting? And Jamuna looked. She saw the ladies are sitting a little apart and kind of behind. So the sannyasi says, "What? Why don't you sit with the ladies?" So Jamuna told us this story in Mayapur in 2010, January, in the community hall. And she said, so I was thinking, I wonder what this is all about. Well, I'll give it a try, I'll try. So she, before Prabhupada came out, she walked over to where the ladies were sitting, a little apart, a little behind. Prabhupada comes out, gives a dynamite lecture, great talk. And then the crowds disperse. And then she said, and then Prabhupada is back in his tent. And Prabhupada's tent, it goes to about a foot above the ground. So Prabhupada can see as he's chanting in his tent. He can see the devotees, who the devotees are, by the bottom of their saris and the bottom of their dhotis. He can see who's who walking by, just by looking at the bottom of their clothes. So he sees Jamuna's sari, and he says, Jamuna, come here. Jamuna, come here. So Jamuna comes in, and so Prabhupada says, so, you do not like to hear me? So this was too much. Hearing from Srila Prabhupada is Jamuna's life and soul. She just completely bursts out crying, totally. And then she tells Prabhupada what happened. And then she asks what to do. Prabhupada puts his head down and doesn't say a word. Wow. In that pregnant, heavy silence, Jamuna realizes for the first time, really, that things have changed. Just as people on the Bowery realized if they tried to go to 26th Avenue that things have changed. Just as people who used to be in 22nd Avenue realized when they went up to 61 2nd Avenue that things had changed. Things had changed. Things have changed. I'm trying to speak and look at this pumpkin pie or whatever it is. Mince pie. I think it's time to... So on that, this is a good cliffhanger, right? And there's a lot more coming. And it's pretty intense. And it's very instructive. Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Svalpa Punya Vatang Rajan Vishvaso Naiva Jayate Sharira Vidyajal Gatendriya Tehekal Jive Pele Visaya Sagare Tar Madhye Jivayati Lobhamoy Sudamati Takijita Katina Sangsare Krishnam Borodoya Moy Karibara Jivajoy Svaprashad Annadilo Bhai Seyamamrita Pa Radha Krishna Gunagal Premidako Sri Chaitanya Nitai Jani Manitai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Preeminent Haribo. So, Prabhupada's head is down, doesn't say a word. Jamuna's realizing things have changed. It's not going to always be the way it was in the Haight-Ashbury. This is a world movement. There's different cultures, there's different standards, there's different etiquettes. If I'm really going to continue to develop my relationship with Srila Prabhupada, I'm going to have to understand what this thing is all about that I've heard Prabhupada say, service and separation. Vani is more important than Vapu. And then, you know what she said? She asked Prabhupada. He didn't say anything, but then she said something. She said, Srila Prabhupada, how many times were you with your spiritual master? And Prabhupada said, 5 or 6 times. He said other things. It was never more than, you could count them on, 2 hands. Prabhupada said 5 or 6 times, but they were very intimate times. He would walk and talk so many things with me. And then you know what Prabhupada said? This is heavy. He said, I had many godbrothers who were always trying to be with him physically. And my Guru Maharaj said they were like mosquitoes. Simply sucking blood. To try to just be with a spiritual master physically, but not serve his order, Prabhupada said, is like mosquito sucking blood. Very heavy. Very heavy. So, after that incident, Jamuna had, association physically with Prabhupada too, serving him intimately at Radha Damodar, cleaning his quarters, like that shot, that shot we have of Prabhupada taking prasad that Vishaka took, I told you, was set up by Jamuna. Jamuna went to Vishaka and said, Vishaka, you've got to get a shot of this. Every day I'm cooking and offering and serving Srila Prabhupada lunch in his rooms while he's lecturing on nectar devotion in the courtyard. That's the time. It's amazing nectar devotion lectures. But you've got to take this picture. And so that's how we have the shot from Jamuna, because they were very close. Do you want to say something about... I'm still not finished with the story, but...
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sort of feeling very...
Well, let me just finish the Jamuna story. Okay. So, Jamuna said that because of that incident, she got it as early as 1971, that Srila Prabhupada is appearing in an old body. He's not going to be with us long. And now, it's over for this Haight-Ashbury stuff. He didn't say you can come and sit that way all the time anymore, because it was a different place, different country, different climate, different etiquette. Prabhupada just put his head down. Even though he said, you don't like to hear me anymore? He asked her. And then she told what happened, and it was his kind of tacit agreement with what the sannyasi, even though maybe the sannyasi, I don't know how he said it to her, but there was something to what he said. So from that time, Jamuna started to cultivate an attitude that she had to learn how to be, and she did, and this is why it was so extraordinary being with Jamuna. She was cultivating being with Srila Prabhupada as intimately in separation as she was when she was with him. And so if you were ever with Jamuna, you were getting so much Prabhupada. It was extraordinary. His mood, his teachings, it was her Prabhupada, right? Because we all connect with Prabhupada. She's very aesthetic. She had Prabhupada's aesthetics and attention to detail and culture, and that was Jamuna, really connected, in music and cooking, But it was an extraordinary experience. And that's how we have to become, in our own way, in our own connection, in our own, whatever we bring to this life, we're going to connect with Srila Prabhupada in our unique way. And we can do that because Prabhupada is such a transcendental Renaissance man. He can attract the whole world. He's a Jagadguru. He's a Founder-Acarya. So that before I go into Vaishnav's question, okay, Vaishnav, please.
I have read that the first class disciple is the one who understands the mind of his spiritual master.
Mm-hmm.
How he should act. So I'm still trying to figure out how this different section of the story you just told makes sense. Like you said that Jamuna Mataji sat with the other ladies. That's one thing, and then Prabhupada said, "You do not want to hear to me." That's another thing, and then her realization, which is something. How are these three connected? I don't understand.
You mean it seems like Prabhupada changed?
Also, statement, things have changed. All these things, how are they connected?
Changed externally. In other words, it was a good lesson to her that the eternal Prabhupada is Vani, is the person who is everlastingly present in his vibration, whom we can meet again, you could say physically or whatever you want to say, but not physically, not material world. That's the real association. Like when Prabhupada was at the Bhaktivedanta Manor in September 77, he was trying to come west again, and he got as far as the manor. And then at one point in his visit, Tamal Krishna Maharaj regaled the devotees of the story of Prabhupada's life. He told the story of Prabhupada's life, with Prabhupada sitting right there. So at one point in the story, Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, and Srila Prabhupada, he was only with his spiritual master 9 or 10 times. And then he went on. And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj says, when I said that, I noticed a smile crept across his face. And then as I was speaking, then he interrupted me. And he said, actually, there was never a moment when I was away from my spiritual master. So how is that? That's in Vani. That's in the instruction. That's the eternal way of associating with the spiritual master. So,
I'm sorry, probably I didn't put yes, I think I understood the importance of Vani.
So it changed physically, but it didn't. She was forced to go deeper to the eternal Prabhupada.
But what really clicked this realization? Because other things do not seem to complement it. How did she really realize this fact? How did she get this realization from other things? I can't understand.
Because she was forced to. She could have gotten all sad and huffy and just left, and people did that. People at the Bowery, at 26, at Haight-Ashbury, at every stage of the development of the Hare Krishna movement, when it changed, when it got more intense, people who were used to they had a certain conception of what Krishna consciousness was, and when Prabhupada would take it to another level, as Prabhupada was always doing, he was gradually revealing different levels, then they couldn't, this is too much. Krishna's too much. He wants total surrender. Missing the point that that's who we are. We are eternal loving servants of Krishna. And then Prabhupada is just bringing us to that point. So she was forced Prabhupada did change. He actually changed externally because he was asking her, it was a kind of way of seeing where she was at. And then when she said that, he knew that she could take the next stage. So he was silent. He didn't say, that's all right, you just come and sit in front of me. Like the good old days in the hate. No, he didn't say that. I think I'm fine. Thank you. So, yeah. So the spiritual master is always, expert in bringing us along, patting us on the back, scolding us, to keep, and giving us tests. So we all have to do that. We all have to serve Prabhupada in separation by serving the devotees, especially those devotees whom we made commitments to, shiksha, diksha commitments. And that goes for, I don't know about, I can just speak for myself, but we're diksha initiated by Srila Prabhupada. We depend on good association from our godbrothers to understand Prabhupada, isn't it? From on the GBC level or whatever level, your neighborhood or your... Because again, Prabhupada's full mercy is revealed through the well-rounded Sangha of serious and sincere Vaishnavas.
I think the fictional Prabhupads tend to come in,
okay.
Unless we have that rounded out association.
Yeah. Yes. That's correct. As far as I'm concerned, it's when we don't have the well-rounded association, we get really isolated and weird. And we begin to think Prabhupada's only this way. And I know him better, and I know no one else knows him. And it happens to very advanced devotees. And then Krishna has to move them on. I'll share with you who I'm thinking of later. But that's the way it works. And I know myself that if I'm going Krishna will keep me around as long as I'm useful. And that's not to make Krishna into some, harsh person. But the minute I think I know better than everybody else, that's the beginning. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before the fall. That's the Bible. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before the fall. Yeah, arrogant, proud, snooty. Vaishnav Ji. Is that helpful? Or?
Sorry, I'm asking so many
questions.
No,
please.
But the point you just said actually always confused me.
What's
you
that?
said Krishna will keep you until he thinks you are useful. This is something which I think was somewhere floating around
That's
my heart.
my realization for me.
What does that mean? Can you tell more about that?
In other words...
And also because I think that it applies to spiritual master also, in some way, or, I don't know, authorities.
Well, Prabhupada did like those Buddhist sayings, books are the basis, utility, usefulness, utility is the principle, purity is the force, preaching is the essence. Prabhupada liked that. So he didn't say it, as some people say, but he thought it was useful. Books are the basis. We see through Shastra. Utility is the principle. Whatever is useful for serving Krishna, and the more advanced we become, the more we can use. The more we see its utility, and the more pure we are to use it. Preaching is the essence. If we just keep it, if we just hoard it, what good is that? It's like a miser. And what is it? Purity is the force. Utility is the principle only insofar as purity is the force. Anasaktasya vishayan. When one is not attached to anything material, that's purity. But at the same time, yatarham upayunjitaha nirbandha krista sambandhe yukta vairagyam uchate, then we're rightly situated above possessiveness. We're neither attached to it, nor do we falsely renounce it. It's not ours to steal or to renounce. It's Krishna's. So we use it. But as far as, maybe I was just imposing my own realization that if I want to be useful after 42 years in the Hare Krishna movement.
Actually, that sounds a little negative, but I think there's a huge positive side to that.
I think it's a healthy fear. I don't want to just hang out and loiter and be a burden and be another mouth to feed. I want to do something, Go ahead. What you want to say? No?
I was just saying that sounds negative, but actually it has a huge positive side to it, which I didn't understand. That's why I was asking you, what's the positive side of this statement?
Yeah, and we really aren't useful when we get on our high horse and we think we know better than everybody else. Then we become, Prabhupada said, separatist. Don't make a faction. Don't be separatist. Cooperate. Cooperate. Your love for me will be shown by how you cooperate. Not by how you get on your high horse and, tell everybody off. So, me, my Pandit, Prabhu.
About I think the question that is it like we see in a company, if I am not being productive, then the boss kicks me out. Is it the same thing like that? What you are saying?
Well, that's a material example. But we should want to be productive. Why would we want to be, devotees not lazy or idle? And we won't be kicked out, we'll just be sidelined by our own desires. We'll still be, quote, in the movement. We won't be rejected. But we want to advance beyond Kanishta. That's why Siddhanta Saraswati left early. He was so disappointed he had so many Kanishta disciples who were just making, as he put it, a joint mess. You know what that means? You know what a mess hall is? A mess hall is in the military is where you eat. So we laugh, this is the kitchen religion, but we should eat to serve, not just, live to eat. Eat to live and live to eat. We should want to eat to live, eat to serve.